Welcome back. Well, the U.S. approving an $11 billion arms package for Taiwan. This is the largest ever from the U.S. to Taiwan as it faces increased military pressure from Communist China. Taiwan will purchase rocket systems, drones, and anti-tank missiles and others after boosting its defense spending by $40 billion. The president of Taiwan is warning that Beijing plans to seize the island by 2027. That's the Davidson window, as we've talked about, 2027. China Ministry of Foreign Affairs says this: by aiding Taiwan's independence through arms sales, the U.S. will only end up harming itself. Any attempt to use Taiwan to contain China is doomed to fail, says the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. New images from the Taiwan Straits show China's most advanced aircraft carrier passing through the Taiwan Strait earlier this week. Joining me now is the Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow, Gordon Chang. Gordon, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I've talked about the Davidson window before. This is Admiral Davidson, Philip Davidson, who said it is likely that Beijing goes into Taiwan in 2027. And that's what Taiwan is saying as well. What do you make of this most recent aggression with China in the Taiwan Strait and telling the U.S. not to help Taiwan in any way?
Well, China was always going to complain about any arms package, but this is a very important package, as you point out. And really what it shows, Maria, is that President Trump is not afraid of the Chinese. We know this also because Trump has been surging military assets into the Taiwan Strait and as well nearby Japan. We now have 2 carrier strike groups in the region. Now, President Trump gets a lot of credit for going after China hard, but he is losing the information war because he doesn't believe it's important. And the Chinese are being able to tar him and basically say to the rest of the world that Trump is afraid of the Chinese. And unfortunately, that narrative is taking hold not only around the world, but in the United States itself. But when you look at the reality, President Trump is going after China across the board.
Yeah, he really is. Look, I've talked a lot on this program about rob, replicate, replace. That is what John Ratcliffe told me a long time ago, is the MO of China: rob, replicate, replace on Western companies. Well, this next story is really unbelievable. China's newest artificial intelligence companies called, ready for this, MetaX. That's the name of the company, MetaX. And the other one, of course, as you know, is More Threads. Both surged in recent IPO debuts on the Shanghai Stock Exchange. MetaX claims that the performance of the C500 chip series is similar to NVIDIA's H200 chip. President Trump recently allowed the sale of those NVIDIA chips to Beijing, although the most advanced chips are still restricted. Your thoughts on these 2 companies? And I just think it's, it's an embarrassment. They named the company MetaX.
Well, yes. And that shows you the Chinese have no respect for the United States because they're being open about what they're doing. MetaX surged 693% yesterday in its IPO, and More Threads surged 400% earlier this month. The reason why these companies are so popular is not necessarily because of their products, but because everybody knows that the Chinese government is determined to make sure that there are no American or other foreign chips in China. And so everyone wants to pile into these companies. But we got to also remember one other thing. When the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, or NVIDIA's Jensen Huang says, look, we need to get China addicted to the American technology stack, that's just not going to wash because Xi Jinping is determined that there be no American products in China. Wow.
Well, look, the Chinese Communist Party does not believe in patents. They don't believe, look, they just take the names, MetaX. So obviously, we've got Meta and we've got X in the U.S. They name one company MetaX. President Trump's push to take back some power over the Panama Canal is also hitting a wall. This is also another pushback, aggressive move from China. It's demanding that its largest shipping company, that company called Costco, gets a controlling stake in any deal, or else it will not sell the 2 Panama Canal ports to a group led by BlackRock. As you know, BlackRock, Larry Fink, has been trying to acquire these ports, and they're hitting a wall. Gordon, what do you think?
Well, what this clearly shows is that these ports are not just commercial ventures. These are strategic assets for China because that's the way China views them, because they're withholding approval of a commercial deal, and what they're doing is commercially unreasonable. So I think President Trump needs to exercise some American power. You know, in Panama itself, there is a constitutional court case that says that these two ports, the concessions were unconstitutionally extended in 2021 for 25 years. Now, if that court case doesn't go as the way we hoped, I just think President Trump should seize these ports because China is obviously using them as a way to hurt the United States. So now's the time to use American power for American ends, and the Chinese can't do anything about it.
Yeah, but I mean, the United States gave those ports to Panama, right? And suddenly, very soon into it, China basically dominated. President Trump, explained it to me in several of my interviews with the president, saying that all the signs were in Chinese. It was obviously the CCP was running things there in Panama at the ports. How's the U.S. going to take it back now?
Well, I think it's going to be a very long process, but we got to get Panama to, first of all, remove these two concessions to C.K. Hutchison. These are both ends of the Panama Canal zone. We got to take the rest of the infrastructure away from China, especially the fourth bridge, which they are now building over the canal. This is a long-term process that will be done with trade and investment. But I think that we do need to use American power and military power as well. So it's got to be an all of the above solution.
All right. We will leave it there, Gordon. Great to see you. Thank you so much for being here.